For more on the City of Johannesburg, we're joined by political journalist and author Qaanitah Hunter. Good afternoon, Qaanitah. Thank you very much for joining us on The Full View. So you wrote what some would say is a well-timed article on the City of Johannesburg's accelerated decline, because it comes at a time when several organizations are mobilizing residents as we speak for a march this weekend, calling for the mayor of Johannesburg to step down, citing a number of issues. Just talk us through your views of the issues plaguing the metro.
Is whether you have a qualified mayor to handle the problems and the complexity of a metro the size of Johannesburg. And Mayor Kabelo Gwamanda over the last year has proven to be completely inept. And that is based on metrics such as how he responded to the fire at the metro center, the civic center, the road collapse, and now most recently the imposition of an electricity tariff. But beyond the leadership crisis or the leadership abilities of Kabelo Gwamanda, Johannesburg is at a huge tipping point. This moment for Johannesburg will determine whether this city survives or not. What are the issues? The issues is unsustainable debt, issues around electricity. You can feel, taste, and live the decay of the city. And the reality of it is that coalition wielding and dealing has taken center stage in that council, not who would be best placed to lead the city.
So then the issues, can they honestly be attributed to Kabelo Gwamanda alone here? Because even in that very article, you were quite frank in your views of what the appointment of Kabelo Gwamanda in 2023 resembled. You say it resembled or mimicked an irresponsible parent putting a child on their lap, creating that illusion that the child is driving the car. So if we continued with just that analogy, who then is the parent driving the car, who perhaps needs to have blame apportioned to them as well?
Let's take the ANC. The ANC sort of came up with this arrangement where a party that got less than 10,000 votes got a mayoral position, and a man who has grade 10 certification and also was a councillor for less than 3 years as the person that should lead the city. That alone is enough to say, you know, alarm bells going on. At the initial appointment of Kabelo Gwamanda, there was an approach to say, give him a benefit of the doubt. But a year later, you realize that the city is almost leaderless. When we had massive crisis, there was an indication of a city that's on autopilot. And so the ANC has to reconsider this coalition deal that it has struck and realize that it is not in the interest of citizens and residents of Johannesburg, but more importantly, it's not in its own interest to run a city down as a party with the most votes, even though it does not have the majority. So it has to reconsider its positions on coalition government and realize that this deal, even though it was crafted on a local level to perhaps assist on other deals in a provincial and national level, now when we have a GNU, the realization is that who leads fragile coalition governments is exceptionally important, and it cannot be just handed down to anyone because of political expedience.
But what of those who still argue that it would be unfair to place all the problems of the city on the mayor because they lead as a collective? He has MMCs.
Absolutely. And so that's why I attribute specific reactions that the mayor, as the executive responsible, failed to show up. If you look at the response, his personal response as mayor to the fire, to the road damage, and more recently his nonchalant approach to a huge crisis, which is unaffordable electricity in the city. You understand that, yes, Johannesburg's problems are not wholly attributable to Kabelo Gwamanda, but having someone who is inept and does not have the necessary required political experience or academic qualifications to lead a city with a budget of 83 billion rand. That's what we fail to realize. We have good examples in Ekurhuleni, we have good examples in eThekwini of how bad mayors can run a municipality down, run a metro down. And so the reality of it is that, what I argued in my piece is that the removal of Kabelo Gwamanda is like the first intervention. It's the easiest one to do, to say, get someone who has, number one, the political gravitas, because, parties who have the most votes or have muscle in that council must be in charge of or must be part of the mayorship. And secondly, there has to be some sort of accountability in terms of the decline of the last year. Let's not forget that a budget was passed, and yet 2.5 billion rand of that budget they still have to go and get a loan for. And so in many ways, Joburg is up against bankruptcy. Things like fixing potholes and collecting rubbish are all nice to have, given the problems, given the water problems, the electricity problems. And so you have someone who appreciates the enormity of the crisis in Johannesburg? I don't think so.
So essentially, you're agreeing with Action SA. Now, we were meant to speak, at least their proposal that they've put forward and the conditions. Now, we were meant to speak to the regional secretary of the ANC, Sasabona Manganya, yesterday to react to Action SA's proposals, but we couldn't get a hold of them. Do you believe this is possibly a done deal here, that it would be easier for the ANC to work with Action SA?
Yeah, I think the ANC will sort of try to get a few people into this agreement. What Action SA is saying is that the problems of the city is too large for them to stick to their existing political position, which is they'd never work with the ANC. They're saying, we'll get a deal, we'll do supply and confidence, where we vote with the ANC on certain issues, and which is voting out Kabelo Gwamanda and voting in an ANC mayor. And it looks, by all indications, the ANC in the region seems to agree that Gwamanda has up until August to kind of wrap things up, and they will have to consider a different arrangement. The reality of it is the ANC does not benefit from a city that is being run down by another political party. And that even though it has a deal with Al Jamaa on a national level, that there are other considerations, and the ANC has to reconsider what this means. And I mean, if a motion of no confidence, and a motion of no confidence will be tabled if Gwamanda doesn't resign willingly, they can't guarantee that all of the parties that supported him last year, April, will support him again, and he will continue being the mayor. So I think they have to now come up with a contingency and realize that political deal-making and backroom negotiations cannot come at the cost of the residents of Johannesburg and any other city in South Africa.
Qaanitah, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. That's political journalist and author Qaanitah Hunter. We will certainly reach out to Mayor Kabelo Gwamanda as calls mount for him to step down.